Hey guys, oh my God, guess what just happened? We had a big major exit. We sold our main brand. We're super excited it happened. We had a 7-figure exit. This is the thing we've been talking about. These are the tips and tricks to become an Amazon millionaire. And this is how we become Amazon millionaires, by having 7-figure exits. And we just did it. Very, very excited. I got to talk to my business partner, Mike. He and I have been building the business for the last 5, 6, 7 years, whatever. And one thing I did, I thought, you know what? It would be fun to capture this entire experience as it's happening, and kind of before we know what happens at the very beginning, and then kind of go into why we're doing it, and then the exit, and then after the exit and stuff like that. So in this series, we're going to be talking about the exit. And this first episode is really fun. This is way back in the end of 2020 when we were kind of resolved that yes, we are going to be exiting. So in this episode, we're going to talk about the why. Why would you want to exit your business? And Mike and I, again, we're talking before the exit. So a few things that we say are a little bit off. They're pretty spot on, but a little bit off. I want you, loyal listeners, to listen to this entire series. It's going to be coming out over the next 2 weeks, and it's going to be really fun, and we're going to be learning a lot. So make sure to tune in to all of the next few episodes in this series. Hey guys, welcome back to the ZonCom podcast. I'm your host, as always, Andrew Erickson. I am here with my business partner, my longtime business partner, Mike Ye. Hey Mike, thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So we are going to be talking about exiting, as in selling our businesses. So it's a pretty big, exciting thing that you can do. These businesses really can be built and sold to private buyers and equity firms and all sorts of different kinds of people who will buy these things. So we're going to be talking about that. We're actually going to do a several-part series about this. Right now, we are pre-sale of our business. This is our main business we've had for the last couple of years. And so we're going to do a pre-sale recording now. And then after the sale, we'll talk about how that sale went. So hopefully it goes well. And Mike, we have an in-depth with you on that we did previously, which was episode 46, How to Organize a $1 Million Team with Mike Ye. So so for those of you who want to learn more about Mike, you should listen to that podcast. But why don't you give us a little intro on yourself before we jump into the topic?
Sure. Yep. So I entered this space with you, Andrew, back in 2016. I think you were already in the space at that point, but I was really intrigued by what you were doing. Met you through a mutual friend of ours at a little pool party, and I guess it was just history since then. I mean, you said a business that we've been running for a couple years. It's actually going on 5 years now. So I'd say that's quite a long time, and we're overdue for an exit at this point. I think we're both very excited to experience this side of it, being the first exit for both of us. So very glad that I could share this experience with you.
Yeah, awesome, man. I'm excited to share it with you as well. And we'll hopefully those will be one of many exits that we do. So this will be our practice one, and then we'll get even bigger and better on the next one.
Hey, if we can make money on practices, that's good in my book.
Awesome. Cool, guys. Well, we're going to talk about, in this episode, we're going to talk about the why of exiting. Why would you want to sell a business? Why not just hold on to it forever and run the same business for 30 years, right? Some people do that, and we're going to talk about why we should exit. We're going to touch on why on this episode. In the next episode, we're going to talk about how. So the very practical, how you go about finding a buyer and how you go through that whole process. So I just want to introduce first the concept of selling a business. So like everything, businesses themselves are assets that you can sell. So an asset, like a car, a house, anything else like that, these things are intellectual property, like a patent. These are assets that can be bought and sold by people. And so the business itself is also an asset. This asset's usually evaluated on the profit that business brings, and then you usually get a multiple on that profit. For small businesses, 3x is pretty common. Right now, the market's a little bit hotter, and we're looking at a 4x annual profit. So, for example, if the business makes about $100,000, you would get 3 to 4x that value. So that would be $300,000 to $400,000 for that business. So that's kind of like the intro into to selling, like the idea of selling a business. But Mike, why don't you tell me a little bit about like why the idea, like why this interests you, the idea of like growing and building and then exiting a business.
Yeah, sure. So I'll preface this by saying I definitely used to fall into the camp of people that were like, why would you sell a business? Like a business in my mind at the time was definitely kind of like a money printing machine. It was like, why would you sell, your money printing machine in this case when it keeps making money as long as it's profitable? And I think you were actually the one that really turned me on to the idea of selling. I probably would not have of my own volition come to the conclusion that it'd be a good idea to sell because I'd be too stuck in that mindset of don't sell the money printing machine. But now that I kind of see the other side of it, I understand that there's a lot of great reasons why. Just to name a few of them, you get a big payday, a big cash out period as part of the sale, but not only that, you're also cashing out a lot of the time and effort that you invest in the business, which then lets you kind of go off and pursue other things that you might be interested in or build an even bigger money printing machine in which case which is partially why we're exiting in this case, right? So I think that's some of the primary motivators that got me interested in the idea of selling the business.
Yeah, I mean, it's a money printing machine. That's a good way of looking at it. But like anything, those money printing machines, that machine itself has value, right? So
Sure. Yep.
why would anybody ever sell a house that they have? Like, why not just keep it and rent it forever? Well, some people do rent it forever,
Mhm.
but sometimes it makes sense if you're moving or if you don't have the cash available or there's a different risk
Yeah.
portfolio.
Hmm.
And for us, I mean, yeah, the business is profitable and it's happy and it's great, and it actually affords us a pretty nice lifestyle. It allowed me to hit 32 countries in 12 months, right? That was 2 years ago, and Mike is able to come home and work from home with his little babies and stuff. So it gives us a really nice lifestyle. But there's a few, there's a couple of things, right? So yeah, you can just keep it forever, but in terms of the value of the business, it's a big chunk of my net worth. Without discussing too much of it, it's probably 80%, 70% of my net worth is tied up in this business, which is fine. I'm okay with that, especially at my age. But the businesses are risky, and having 70% of my net worth tied up in this kind of business where the account could get suspended or the inventory is damaged or the employee hacks the bank account or like whatever it is, those little things that can get you, it's really scary. Especially I had a baby recently, so like my risk meter has gone a little bit more sensitive now. So I'm like, let's maybe like get a little less risky owning this business.
Sure. Makes sense.
What do you think, Mike, about like having a good chunk? I know, we have, our primary homes and some 401ks and stuff like that. So we're fine outside of that, but like a good chunk of our net worth is tied up in the business.
It is, and it's nice to kind of be able to bring some of that home and diversify it in more traditional investments. So I do agree with that, but in my mind, the primary reason is really a pursuit of other passions, and also the fact that I think that part of what made this business exciting was the growth period, the taking it from nothing and building all the systems and processes that went into it in order to make it what it is today. And I think we did that incredibly successfully. It was a long journey, but I think we knocked it out of the park, and it was a very exciting period. And basically now where it is, it's a very mature business that's basically runs itself. I mean, we kind of overlook, not overlook, look over the business operations, but for the most part, we're primarily hands off of it at this point. And so I don't know if I'm just getting the itch again to build something else up, but it'd be kind of difficult to incur that risk at the same time as still continuing to hold this business. So there's a trade off there, but I kind of feel like that the honeymoon period of being able to build the business is now behind us, which in a lot of people's eyes is a great thing. In my eyes, it's got me itching for something else. So
So yeah, and that's kind of the thing that we're spending most of our time on now is pursuing new passions, right? So we started another brand this last year, and that brand is now doing well enough that it's almost at the point where it can pay our basic salaries. It should be there really soon. It's like almost there. So we figured like if we sell the business, we can pursue this other brand that is a little bit more passionate and a little more close to home to Mike and me. And so that's the other thing too, is that like, you're just doing the same thing, the same product, the same brand for 5, 6 years, just gets a little old and boring sometimes.
Yeah, and on that note, I'll say without getting into too much detail about the actual products themselves, on this brand or the brands that we're selling currently, I feel like the products that are within those brands really were a result of us looking at analytics, like what does the market need, but not really considering too much of our actual interest and passions. I mean, I can't say I have, particularly high interest or passion in the products that we're selling now that are in the brands that we're trying to sell. But at the time when we looked at the market and we looked for gaps, it was lit up like that's what we need to go after. And so that's kind of how we fell down that rabbit hole. And while I do enjoy the whole process of designing and developing new products, if you gave me an option of designing anything, that these products that we're talking about right now would not be my initial idea of something that would be fun to work in. So
Yeah, and that's the passion there, right? And so I do personally find passion building products and helping customers and building the brand and stuff like that. So that's my thing. I love building the business and building the products, but and think of like new clever ways to kind of like fix other products that aren't doing well, and we can come out with our own version. So I have that kind of passion, but the product itself I don't use. I'm not the demographic. So it's yeah.
I remember when we picked the product on this the main brand that we're selling here. I just recall from another old podcast that you turned me on to years and years ago before I was even in the space. The gist of it was like basically if you start selling your product and you take it to your friends and show it to them and they're like, "Oh, that's cool." Then you're selling the wrong product. But if you take it to them and your friends are like, "Dude, what are you doing?" That's when you're doing it right. And we are 100% in the "dude, what are you doing" category, which means that we did that part right, but it does not exactly align with my own personal interests, at least. So getting into something that does
Yeah,
align a little bit more, is exciting.
that's the thing, and there's so many people who are like, "Man, I would love to sell travel stuff. I would love to
Mhm.
sell these products that I use every single day." And that makes sense if you're the kind of person who if you're the target demographic for your own product, you can know that really well, and you can know your avatar really well because you yourself are the avatar, right? But I found I'm not a good avatar. Like my segment of the market, like how I think apparently does not align with how most Amazon buyers buy. So that strategy does not work well with me, right? So there, if it works well for others, that's fantastic. Like if that's your strength, then like go with it and like hit it hard. But the stuff I buy, there's not much of a nice market around. So I don't know. I've always found that technique like a little difficult to like just sell the things that you like.
Yeah, totally agree with that.
So you mentioned that the company kind of runs by itself. We do have to do some oversight and everything, but I've had people ask me, well, if it runs by itself and it's generating profit and everything else, why don't you just hire someone to run it for you and just like forget about it and have them run it?
Mhm. Yeah, and
Like why don't we do that?
we strongly considered it. That's for sure. I mean, we spent at least a few weeks looking at that as a potential option instead of exiting. From what I recall, we did some analyses on basically what we would need to make happen in order for that to come to fruition. You could certainly do that. I still don't see anything wrong with doing that. I mean, if we decided today that we're not going to sell and we're going to go down that path, I would be a little upset, but I wouldn't be totally heartbroken though. I would be more heartbroken on or more upset about the missed opportunity of seeing what an exit looks like. I think that's what I'm most excited about right now is not necessarily more or less getting rid of one of our businesses, exiting the business, but more so, just gaining experience in a different area that I think is a really big deal and that I don't know anything about. And as with most things in life, like things that I don't know about, I go out of my way to try to learn how they work because I guess that's just, I think you're very much the same way. We both have that kind of curious, curious personality and trying to understand how the world works. And to me, exiting a business it's a big, checkbox in what we call life, in my book at least. And I'm just excited about that part. But like I said, if, I don't think there'd be anything wrong with us hiring someone and just having them run the business for us. It's just my preference here is learning, growing a little bit more, becoming more well rounded in the business world. So, what about you?
Yeah, and I completely agree with everything you said. And honestly, I have to admit, like the brand is at 1.5 million, 2 million revenue or so, something like that. That's annual revenue, of course. I have to admit, I've found it fairly difficult to scale past the $2 and $3 million mark. I know it requires a bigger team, requires more organization, requires a lot of other stuff. A lot of those things, I think there's a combination of I don't want to do it, and also a little bit of I don't know how to do it. So, I mean, we could maintain the company, but I don't
Yeah.
honestly have had a hard time seeing how to scale past 2 million, to
Yeah.
tell you the truth. And so that's one thing when you take this thing that can scale out and you give it to someone else who can scale it up for you or, for themselves really, and they pay you for the opportunity to allow them to scale it for themselves. And I kind of like that idea. It's like having your kid raised at home and sending them off to college. Like, okay, I raised you up and I'm not a professor, so you're going to have to go like learn life and other things outside of the house in a new place. And so like for you to grow, you need to leave the home and you need to go pursue and grow outside of my sphere of influence.
How would you feel if after this exit in a year or 2 years from now, you see our now sold brand just all over the place? Like you walk into any store and it's just like on the front shelf of everything. Would that make you kind of sad, or would you just be overtly excited?
um That's a good question. Well, McDonald's was founded by the McDonald brothers, but it was not scaled up by them. They were stuck in Southern California, actually about an hour north of me here in Southern California. They scaled that up. They really got their single hamburger shop really honed down really well, but they didn't want to expand outside of that one or two shops in LA.
Hmm.
And it was Ray Kroc who basically bought the
Yeah.
company, or I don't know if he like licensed it or bought it or whatever he did. And then he scaled up that small little shop up to thousands or millions of storefronts. And
Hmm.
when they talk to the McDonald brothers, they're like, "Oh, you missed out on all these like billions of dollars." They're like, "What are you talking about? I didn't know how to do that.
Yeah.
I was stuck in a
Yeah.
little shop in LA."
Absolutely. Yeah. No,
And
that's
so I
fair.
think I would have the same feeling with our brain if it grew. And also, you know what? I would call up the buyer and be like, "Hey, can you
Hey,
give me
remember
a few
me?
tips on like how, on how I can scale my other stuff up like that?"
Yeah. Yeah. Or you just you make those connections, and the next time you have a business to sell, you take that into account. And heck, the person that scaled up your old business will know that you build something on such a solid foundation that it is scalable, and maybe you can negotiate that in as part of the sale, like that. It's a solid business that they can then go and do the same thing with on the next business. So I think there is a lot to be said in terms of networking and knowing people in the buying side of this whole operation. That can definitely help in the bigger picture.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a really good point. So the last thing I wanted to hit on was this idea of a brand treadmill. I think I invented this. I think I'm gonna take 99% of the credit because maybe someone out there, maybe some podcast planted this in my mind, and I'm just like regurgitating something that I heard someone else say. I'm pretty sure I invented this idea though, or at least I invented the at least the name of it, brand treadmill.
You get that trademarked.
Hey guys, I want to interrupt the episode for just a few seconds for you. Today's episode is brought to us by our sponsor, Helium 10. Helium 10 is one of my favorite tools. I use it literally every single day. Actually, I don't tell people I use this tool. I tell people I live and breathe this tool. So with Helium 10, I'm going to do a quick little demo here. I've actually loaded up a real page. We're going to talk about how to find our launch keywords for a metal taco holder. Fun project. So here I am loading up X-Ray, which gives us like sales data on all these different products. And I go through here and find a few of the products that make sense. They're all kind of like relevant things. These are all like metal taco holders, right? I'm going to exclude the plastic ones. I'm going to exclude the weird dinosaur ones and stuff. I'm just going to grab a few metal ones. And I think I like to grab 10, but like 5 to 10 works as long as you have a good number of products here to kind of see the algorithm, right? We're all thinking about the algorithm. Now, when we hit that, we can load up Cerebro. So here's Cerebro loading. And boom, we have our keywords. We have our keywords that came with that are our top ranked keywords for these products. So you can see here what the main image looks like, and we can see here a list of all these keywords. We have thousands and thousands of keywords that are going to be things that we're ranking for. We want to have our best launch keywords though, and those launch keywords are, I like to use 1,000 to 5,000 search volume. And also, here's a big one. This is a killer one. We want ranking competitors. Who are our main competitors and where are they ranking? I put 5 to 10. I like to kind of see that the top, like in this case, we have 8. So you're going to have 6 or 7 ranking competitors. So here I'm filtering by search volume, and we want to find the top search products. And we also want to see how many of them our competitors are ranking for. Where our competitors are ranking is where we should be launching to. If these products look just like ours, then people who search these things are looking for products just like ours, right? So here we have 7 ranking competitors. We have thousands of searches per month. And these products are going to be, now use a human part and think which ones make the most sense for my product. And in this case, I chose these 3, and I think these are the best keywords that we should launch to. That is a quick little 1-minute tutorial about how we use Helium-10 to pick our launch keywords. So this tutorial, I hope you figured out, hope you got some value from this. If you want to use this tool yourself, use ZonCon10 for 10% off for the rest of your life. I have used Helium-10 for, I don't know, 5 years, 6 years, so 10% for life. I'll probably use it for the next 5 or 10 years, right? So go ahead and go to helium10.com and use that discount code ZonCon10. That's ZONCON 10 for 10% off for the rest of your life. So the idea of the brand treadmill is you create a company that creates brands that it sells every 2 or 3 years, right? So the company is an incubator or like a foundry for brands, right? And so to get a good exit, you need 24 months of history. So it needs at least 2 years. We'll just say 2 to 3 years to grow these brands up, right? And you just build up a brand and exit it. Great. Okay, cool. But the problem though is that I found that the beginning of a brand, like the concepts of like what space to get into, brand, the actual like logo and like how to understand and target your avatar customer, that exercise, that's way different than growing than having a $1 million brand or multi-million dollar revenue brand that's doing stuff like you're spending most of your time like optimizing logistics and hiring your 5th employee to like manage the thing or whatever, and then like making sure that your email cadence is you're doing that email every month. Like it's a lot more operational when you get to that level, which is great. I mean, if you do a good job with that, you can really make a good profit. But the idea of like starting a new company, that is different than like operating a medium size brand, right? So the way we get around that, and so we don't forget how to start a new company, we do it every year. We start a new company every single year, and we sell a company every single year. We're always operating 2 different companies. You're growing one and you're maturing one. And you're always working on 2 at one time. So you always have this like kind of planting your seedlings and then harvesting your fruit. I guess in this case, would be harvesting the wood of the tree, right? And so that idea of a brand treadmill, you're basically have a treadmill or a conveyor belt where you have multiple brands on that conveyor belt being built, grown, and then exited or harvested.
Yeah, I think we're getting to the same point there. As soon as we exit this current one, that means we got to start spinning up the next idea here, right?
I guess that's what that implies, right? We have our new brand is going to become our not new brand, and we'll have a new brand.
Yep,
I guess the end of this year would be kind of
that's
where we would
ambitious.
put it. Yeah.
I think it's doable though. I mean, so I feel like what I really appreciate the most about the brand treadmill idea is that it gets you comfortable going through the same process over and over. Um, if you're able to maintain the same personnel or team, then they get comfortable, or at least if you have contacts that are good at, specific things, you can basically just go to those people and you kind of skip past the whole, like how they say, like when a team comes together, you go from storming to forming to norming. And I see that on almost every new team that I join. It's, your initial period is like everyone's like gung ho, getting in there and trying to stand each other. Um, and then everyone's kind of butting heads, and then you start getting to this whole like where everyone is starting to understand each other a little bit better, and then you end up in the norming phase, which is, when everything's working fluidly, and people are playing nicely together, and you're at your most effective operating period, basically. I think by having that brand treadmill where you're able to maintain the same contacts to do the same types of specific tasks, whether it's designing a logo or a branding campaign, you basically are able to skip a lot of the storming and forming part of that, and just you basically maintain in that norming phase with the same group of people, and you're remaining very effective with every new brand you start. And so a lot of the challenges and struggles, I feel like, of starting a new company or a new brand, basically go out the window. And so, the people around you, if you're able to hold on to them through this phase, which I know we're trying to do to some degree with our current brand, I think that that makes a big difference in the end.
That's good. I like that. I've never heard that. Storming to forming to norming.
I hope I got that
That's
right.
good. No, that's good. That's good. If you didn't get it right, that's even cooler. Yeah, we're trying to. So that's one thing we're trying to hold on to the team. But if someone comes in and is offering us like a 7-figure exit,
Mhm.
I'm would consider separating with the team. So we'll
Yeah, yeah,
I would like to keep them, but
yeah.
we'll see how that goes.
So I had to look that up because really quick, because I wasn't 100% sure if that's what it was. I think I got the general description of it right, but it's actually forming, storming, and norming, which makes a lot more sense. You initially come together.
Okay.
You don't start fighting first with before you form. That would be totally backwards. So you form the team, and then everyone's storming, and then you're norming. And I'm seeing now on Google that there's apparently beyond norming, you go into performing, which is really the climax stage of, working at your best. And I'm seeing another one even here that says after performing you go to adjourning, it looks like, which I guess means that you're done with the project and you're adjourning. I don't know, this is a it's interesting, but yeah, no, that make a lot of sense. So forming, storming, norming.
Perfect. I love it. Cool. So I think that's kind of it on the why. Is there anything else you want to throw in there on like why you're excited about selling these businesses?
Well, in particular, this initial one, I'm very excited. I already touched on, because I want to learn how this works, but I want to learn how this works because I want to keep doing it over and over again, and I want to do it better and better each time we do it. So I think you called it our practice exit, but it's very much a real, very big deal to us exit. I want to make sure that we're, adequately prepared for. I'd like to think that our businesses that we grow will only improve going forward, and that they will be bigger and bigger exits. And I want to make sure that, we're equipped with the knowledge and the mindset and, all the right tools to know how to encounter those bigger exits when we get there. So, what about you?
Yeah, yeah. I honestly another one is I just want to add 7-figure exit to my resume. I think that would sound really
That's fair.
nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or multi 7-figure. I don't know. Maybe, probably not multi, but maybe single 7-figure.
Sounds
um,
good to me.
Yeah, I guess the other one too is we spent so much time not making any money in the business, right? And like now it's at the point where it's like it like you said, it's a money machine, right? But we're not 3 years, went 3 years without taking any profits at
Right.
all, right? And it's nights and weekends, tens of thousands of dollars into it. And then yeah, it's on paper on an accrual basis. The accountant and the IRS says I'm making money on it. But I'm like, well, wait a minute. Yeah, sure, we made $80,000 on the first year or second year, whatever it was. But like, I ended the year with $60,000 in inventory, and the government's like, oh yeah, you made 80,000. I'm like, but I have 20,000 in my bank account and 60,000 in inventory. Like, okay, cool, yeah, I don't care. You owe us $30,000 in taxes. And I'm like, wait a minute, I only have $20,000. They're like, oh, but you made money. I'm like,
Let me go ahead and postmark some of this inventory and send it
yeah,
in as my payment to you guys.
yeah, I'll send a couple pallets into you if you want. If you want to accept that, and they don't accept pallets of shit from China, right? They're like, no, we want cash money. So I'm like, this is hard. So that kind
Hilarious.
of stuff, like those years of not making any money, not taking anything home, that's a
Yeah.
big thing that excites me about this.
Yep.
Yeah, and then the other thing too, I guess the other thing I wanted to hit on too is like these multiples right now. I'm at time of recording, they're telling us a 4x multiple on annual profit. So we'll let you know what we actually get. If we're allowed to disclose, we'll let you know what we actually get later. But the 4x sounds like I'll just hold the company for 4 years, which is kind of true. But honestly, it almost feels like a 10x multiple, right?
Why do you say that?
Well, so it's a 10x multiple because one, we get seller discretionary earnings. It's a 4x on that earnings, right? And not to get too jargony, but SDE or seller discretionary earning, it's your profit that you report on your taxes, plus all the little junk you put on your taxes, like your phone bill and your home office and your and that trip to Cancun you took, and like that marketing lunch that you did with your, that was really just kind of, I hope the IRS is not listening, but the marketing lunch was, a marketing lunch with your friends, right? And like those kinds of things, like those are really useful, but they're good to take off your taxes and they're legal, proper things to take off. But you get to add all those back in. So you get a 4x multiple on those, right? We can still take those kind of deductions because we have other businesses that we can write off the income on, right? So this business, we're really getting that money, we're getting a 4x on that. Okay, that's one. We're also getting our inventories being purchased, and that's all taxed money that we put on inventory, right? Because I said earlier I had the 60,000 whatever increase in inventory. That money just comes back to us. I know that we already we earned that and put it back in the business, but we get that as an exit, right? So that's kind of like another like 1 or 2x chunk. And then another one we get is our operating capital. We have a good chunk of cash just sitting there waiting to be used just in case we need it, because we need to save for Christmas. We need to save for rainy day fund. We were pretty worried about the logistics of just everything with 2020, with all the stuff that happened in 2020. So we kept a nice little cash cushion just to be careful. And that money, we don't need that anymore. We don't need to keep that cash cushion. We can just take it home and put it in college funds and buy a new house with it. So it feels like, yeah, it's a 4x on the seller discretionary earnings, but in a lot of ways, like the money that we're taking home, it really feels kind of like a 10x multiple.
Yeah, yeah. And I should clarify, when you said save for Christmas, I initially thought you were talking about saving for Christmas gifts. And I'm like, wait, what?
No,
And then I
like
realized you're
Christmas
talking about like,
inventory.
yeah, yeah. It took me a second there, and I was like, oh, I should probably clarify that we're talking about Christmas inventory. We're talking about multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of orders, and not for saving for Christmas gifts. And just just to make sure we're clear there.
Yeah. I mean, we're bringing in containers every week during leading up to Christmas, so they
Yeah,
are expensive, and we have to save up that
yeah,
money. And guess what? We don't get paid for that until after the thing is sold. So we have that tens, hundreds of, 100 to whatever. It's a good chunk, big chunk of money. So we don't need to save up for that anymore, because we don't need a buffer for that anymore. So all those things, those all add up to. This is why we exit.
yeah.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, I hope you now are excited about and understand why people want to exit. I think that this is a huge thing that's going to be going on for all of 2021 and for all of the future. So even if you are at the beginning stages of your business, having exit in mind is going to be really useful. There is real money at the end of that rainbow. There's a real pot of gold at the end of that rainbow. And if you are also thinking about it, maybe I should be exiting soon, or maybe I should consider it. Maybe I should talk to a broker or whatever. We're going to be talking about how to exit in the next episode. And then, and also, if you don't want to exit, yeah, go ahead, hire that person or keep running that business, whatever. But I think everyone who's listening to this should at least be considering their exit plan.
Absolutely. Agree with that. And along those lines, I know that when we started these businesses, at least exiting wasn't on my mind. And I kind of wish that it was at that time, because I think perhaps we would have made slightly different decisions on how we built up the business had we kind of built it towards that exit. So I 100% agree with what you say there. If exiting is your long-term goal, then, you know, become a little more savvy in it and base your decisions on that.
Perfect, Mike. Well, thanks for being here, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks again. Talk to you guys soon.
I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, that was recorded back at the end of 2020, and this is the first part of the series. If you are interested in learning more about exiting, follow this entire series. It's going to be awesome. You're going to love it. If you want to learn more about it, I am so excited to talk to people about this. This is a fun thing that happened to us and a life-changing event that happened to us. If you want to learn more and talk to me, I would love just to chit chat about exiting your business. If you want to do that, go ahead and go to zonconpodcast.com/exit, EXIT, exit. And that link will be in the show notes. I would love to jump on a call and talk about like how the different options and how we went about exiting and why we exited and how you can too. So go ahead and go to zonconpodcast.com/exit, fill out the form, and we will talk soon.